Today I'm going to be having a look at some pedal harp soundboards. Going to have a bit of a closer look, see sort of what's involved in the process, what they're made of, and what the materials are and why certain things are how they are. So yeah, hopefully it's informative and you can learn a few things about your soundboard.
As you can see, I've got a few harp boards lined up here. So on the left we have a Salvi, it's an Aurora soundboard, which I'm currently in the process of replacing, which is this central board here, which is under construction. And then on the right here, we've got a Line & Healy 23 board, which I replaced a few years ago. So I'm just going to take a bit of a closer look and we'll have a look, see what's inside the board, as it were. We've also got a body here. This is the Salvi body that the soundboard's going into. So hopefully we can have a look at that as well. So we'll start by just taking a look at the back of the soundboard here. So as you can see, there is a difference between the actual soundboard wood, which runs across like this, and then a veneer that goes up and down on the front there. It's really just a cosmetic thing. If you look at old harps that don't have veneer on the front, you just get some creep of the joints between the wood and the actual grain itself, where it just shrinks and expands over time, and you just get these little gaps that appear on the front of the soundboard. It's not an issue as such, but it just doesn't look super nice. So I'm guessing about 100 and maybe a bit more years ago, they started putting veneer on the front, and all it does is it just stops those joints from opening up and just prevents it from looking not very nice, basically. Then you've got these, which are harmonic bars, which just help to spread the sound waves up and down the soundboard. And your backstrip here, and that sort of provides a lot of strength for the actual soundboard itself. This is where all the strings come through and they bear up against here, so it stops the soundboard itself from getting ruptured or the strings pulling into it and causing issues. If we take a bit of a closer look at the bottom here, hopefully this will still be in focus, but you get a fishtail down at the bottom. This holds into the bottom strip of the body or the sound box. It wedges up into here. This is actually what stops the soundboard from slipping up the harp with all the force of the strings. It stops it from coming up that way, because the more it pulls, the tighter that wedge gets, and it can't actually go any further. Older harps will actually have wedges that are put in next to it, but I think this is a little bit more sturdy and just all one piece of wood sort of thing, so it stops any movement. If we look at the front of the soundboard now, obviously, as I said, you've got this veneer, then whatever decoration that you might have, that's one of the final steps. So the soundboard will go in, it'll be glued in place, screwed in place, and then all lacquered. Then you put the design on, then you lacquer over the top. You've got your central strip here. You can see it's got all of these holes on this lion, large holes, because this one actually had inserts. I can't remember now whether they were nylon or metal inserts. It actually has inserts as opposed to this Salvi where it's got fake ivories. They would have actually been ivory or bone back in the days, but now they're fake, they're nylon, which is what we use here. It's just very cut resistant, so the strings don't cut into it sort of thing. So it just provides a good bearing surface for the strings to go up against. So now if we take a look at this soundboard that we're making, you can see that it's all under construction at the moment. So it's got the harmonic bars glued on, the backstrip glued on. We actually burn the back of the soundboard holes. It's kind of not really necessary, but it just hardens the wood around the soundboard holes. It is something that they used to do a long time ago, and we've just kind of stuck with it. The wood itself, as you can see, the grain goes across like this, and it's actually multiple pieces of wood jointed up together, because you won't get a piece that's that large with the grain going across like this. And it's waiting to be glued in shortly. So here I have a piece of raw soundboard wood. As you can see, it looks basically just like a piece of firewood, but actually this piece costs about 70 or 80 pounds, and it's, as you can see, quite small. It's what's called cleft, so you get the log and you split it with what would have been an axe, but they probably use something more industrial now, and you split it so it follows the grain, if you can see that, It's quite a nice piece, so that there's not a lot of twisting or wobbling that's going along there. It's just a bit flattening on the back side. So once you've got that, you will actually slice it off into pieces, which will then be all jointed up together to form the soundboard. And out of that piece, I guess you're going to get maybe 2 or 3 pieces, so it will sort of go a few little pieces up and down the board there, sort of thing. We use thicker spruce, but you can get a few different varieties. They're all good as long as you're using high quality stuff. It's a very resistant material. It's really strong and hard, but quite lightweight, so it really resonates and builds that sound, and you get a lot of tone coming from it, sort of thing. I can't think of the right words to use there, but yeah, basically the higher quality material used, the better the sound will be. We also use aged wood, so this is a piece of a slightly newer wood that we've got sitting around, which is going to probably stay with us for a few years before it's used. And that was from 2016, you can see, so that's 8 years old already. Ideally we'd like it to be at least 10 years old, and we've got some stock that's about 20 plus years old. Actually got it from an auction from an old luthier, so that had all been sitting in a shed for about 20 years, which doesn't sound good, but it's actually great, because the older it gets, the harder the wood gets, and the better sound you're going to get out of it, basically. As you can see, we've got the body here, waiting for the soundboard to be glued in. You can see along the edge here, you've got all of these holes. This is where the soundboard is actually screwed in place as well as glued in place, because the glue basically doesn't hold up to the amount of tension that you've got on the soundboard. You don't see these screws because, let me just pop this up. Once the soundboard's in, you'll put this top strip on top of it. I can position it there. So that would just cover up all of those screws, just because they don't look super pretty. So that just helps with keeping the soundboard in place and then covering up the screws on top of that. So if I just pop this back down, and then we'll just wrap that body round, and we'll just take a look at this soundboard just getting put into place here. See here, it fits nicely into place. And then once that's in, it will be all drilled down here, screwed into place, and then we'll have one of these ribs, top strips, put over the top of it like that.